I rise to support the Climate Change Amendment, Duty of Care and Intergenerational Climate Equity Bill 2025, and I thank Senator David Pocock for his work in bringing this bill before the Senate. I also acknowledge the presence of Anjali Sharma, a proud, unapologetic young advocate whose courage inspires many of us in this chamber and across our nation. I also acknowledge the contributions of my colleagues before me in taking part in this debate. So a lot of you might be like, well, what's the whole significance? Why is Anjali Sharma here? Well, in October 2021, Anjali led a class action against the federal government, which found that the federal government had, and I quote, a duty to take reasonable care to avoid causing personal injury to the children and young people of Australia. That landmark ruling gave hope to so many young Australians who believed their government would finally be held accountable for the decisions they make, not just today, but in the years to come, that will shape the world they will inherit tomorrow. In 2022, the federal court overturned this decision on appeal. Since then, the Albanese government's efforts in the environment portfolio have been wanting, to say the least. The words nature positive are sure to send a shiver down the spine of some in this place. The nature positive bill package began with the dysfunction of the EPBC Act that pushed the former coalition government to begin the Samuel Review. Based on the recommendations of that review, former Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek worked conscientiously towards a deal that would balance the political realities of this chamber with the environmental needs of our country. In the final moments of the negotiations in November of last year, the entire proposal was blocked by the Prime Minister. The bills were brought up again at the start of this year, but the Prime Minister again ruled out enacting the reforms. He couldn't have a secure future for the environment hanging over his head. There was an election coming. Now, we have the fixer, Minister Murray Watt. He fixed the CFMEU, if you ignore the resignations and the misconduct that is going on in the administration, and now he's going to fix the environment. Let me tell you, though, we won't have an independent EPA and we won't have a climate trigger, but he's going to fix it. Under the Environment Protection Reform Bill 2025, we're told the government is taking a balanced and pragmatic approach to this reform. But when you look closer, what you see is a blueprint for backroom exemptions and double standards. The so-called national interest exemption gives the minister power to approve designated projects even when they fail to meet environmental standards. In other words, if a project is politically convenient, it can be fast-tracked even if it causes unacceptable harm to our environment. It begs us the question of, if the environment truly belongs to all Australians, why should certain proponents, particularly those backed by international investors, get a free pass from the rules that apply to everyone else? Why should local communities and traditional custodians have to meet all these requirements, every condition, every test, every consultation requirement, while multinational corporations can bypass the standards in the name of national security? This sounds more like political discretion dressed up as policy rather than actual environmental reform. And that's why Senator David Pocock's bill matters so much. It is a crucial step in the right direction for the environment. This bill puts a positive obligation on the government to consider the rights and well-being of future generations of Australians, to treat their health, their mental health, their safety and their security as central to every decision we make in this place. Our first duty is not to the next election cycle, it's not to corporate investors, but it's to Anjali and her generation and the many more generations to come. They shouldn't just be invited to Parliament House for photos and tours and lectures, but we need to provide them a seat at the table. We need to hear their voices and their concerns through inquiry processes and consultations, especially on issues that will impact their futures and their lives. And let's not just stop there. I mean, the UK recently had election reforms of lowering the voting age. I think we, as Australians here, we should allow voluntary voting for 16 and 17-year-olds to have a say, to elect their federal representatives, to really take part in our democratic process, because they deserve it. You, young Australians out there, advocating and fighting for a better future, you deserve it. Now, we hear from the government about how they're leading the way on renewables and that the opposition is divided on net zero. Yet, at the same time, the government is approving new coal and gas projects like a Liberal government in disguise. If you know deep down that you're not on track to achieve your own renewable and climate goals, then you can't keep doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. You need to change your strategy. You need to find a better way forward. And this duty of care and intergenerational climate equity bill is part of that better way forward. It's a reminder that the decisions we make in this chamber must outlive us, because their consequences surely will. And as Senator Hodgins-May outlined, our young people deserve better. Their psychosocial health is already being impacted by the lack of action that we're seeing by this government on environmental reforms. So, with that being said, I commend this bill to the Senate and look forward to the government's